Jessica Care Moore and Magali Urista.
What up, though? My name is Jessica Care Moore.
And I'm Magali Urista.
It is our honor to welcome everyone to our neighborhood for this historic gathering. This morning we are joined on stage by members of our community, young innovators, dreamers, creators, entrepreneurs, and leaders helping to create a new bright tomorrow for Southwest Detroit, Corktown, Mexican Town, and the entire world. We're in Detroit's oldest neighborhood. We have history here that runs deep in a vibrant, creative scene and vigorous spirit that I think is second to none.
Absolutely. So we'd like to start off with giving a big warm welcome to our new neighbor, the Ford Motor Company. Yes. And we can't wait to see what we can all do together here. So without further ado, let us also welcome the Detroit Children's Choir.
Oh, no, darling.
No wind, no rain. Oh, when winter's cold, you can't stop.
No, baby.
'Cause you are
If you're ever in
my
trouble, I'll be there on the double.
Just send for me, oh baby. My love is alive, deep down in my heart. Although we are miles apart.
If you ever need a helping hand, I'll be there on the double just as fast as I can.
Ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe. Ain't no mountain high enough. Ain't no valley low enough. Ain't no river wide enough to keep me from getting to you, babe.
You should go.
Once again, let's hear it for the Detroit Children's Choir.
Come on, Madonna. Pick it. Come on, boy. I've been waiting for somebody to pick up my straw. Well, don't waste time. Give me a sign. Tell me how you want to roll. I want somebody to speed it up for me. So
Please welcome Detroit's youngest entrepreneur, Asia Newsom.
just gotta show me where it's at. Are you ready to go?
Good morning, everyone. Good morning. Welcome, everybody, and welcome Ford. I'm Asia Newsom. I'm 15 years old, and I'm a proud Detroiter. I grew up in Brightmoor, and I go to school at Cass Tech. I started my own candle business. Woo-hoo. I started my own candle business when I was just 5 years old with my dad, and it's become a Detroit success story. I guess that's why I was asked to kick things off here today. Growing up here, I've seen the promise of Detroit. I've also seen the challenges that families have in my community. And I've seen those people and this city take them head on. I realize that I've been really lucky, so I try my best to teach other kids how to empower themselves and be self-sufficient. All of us here, we are Detroit. We are creators, we are innovators, and we are change makers. And we're willing to do whatever it takes to make the future we want come alive. As a young member of this community, it's exciting to see Ford in Detroit, in Corktown, and bringing Michigan Central Station back to life. This means so much to all of us. What a special honor for me this morning to introduce the man whose vision is making this a reality. Let's do it, Detroit. Let's give a rousing big welcome to Mr. Bill Ford.
Wow. I think she said it all. There's nothing left to say. She's incredible. And Asia, thank you so much for that introduction. Your story is what's so special about Detroit. Excuse me if I put my sunglasses on. I think it's my Irish blood makes me photosensitive. Actually, I'm copying my mother, who always is photographed with her sunglasses on. And thank you to everyone on stage who's joining me today. This marks the 115th anniversary of the Ford Motor Company. We have a lot of employees here, and I'm proud to have worked alongside so many of you for almost 40 years. Still, I've rarely been as excited for an announcement as I am today. And before I begin, I'd like to recognize some of the people here who have helped make this moment possible, including Governor Snyder. Yes. Mayor Duggan. Yes. And County Executive Evans. As well as representatives from the City of Detroit, Wayne County, DEGC, and MEDC. Thank you all very much for everything you've done. I'd like to give a couple of special shout-outs. First to Tom Buell, who, without his vision for Corktown, his early foray down here, he's the one who talked us into the factory, and we're all so glad he did. It was amazing. And then he worked on the deal to get us down. So Tom, thank you so much for everything you did for us. Thank you. And a couple of my colleagues at Ford, Dave Dubensky and Mary Culler, both of whom were the sort of the voice of sanity as I got very excited about this and kept trying to give me reality checks as we went along. But they both couldn't have been more visionary and really wanted this to happen. So thank you to both of you. Matt Maroon. Matt was great to deal with. We got this deal done pretty quickly. He really wanted this to happen, and so Matt, thank you for your leadership in making this happen. And finally, to the Ford family, who are all sitting down here in the front row, they collectively and also individually have done so much for this region, this city, and so thank you to all of you. So this is the Michigan Central Station. It's a building that in many ways tells the story of our city over the past century. In 1913, when the first train pulled into the station, workers at Ford were building 200,000 cars a year. But by the end of that decade, 200 trains a day were chugging into this station, and Ford was turning out 1 million cars each year. Detroit had become the 4th largest city in America, and possibility was everywhere. And for 76 years, the train station was our Ellis Island, the place where dreamers in search of new jobs and new opportunities first set foot in Detroit. This was the port where we shipped our troops off to war and then welcomed them home. And I remember the first time I walked through this as a little boy, I'd never seen anything so big or so majestic. And I didn't think anything like it could exist anywhere else. It was something that only Detroit could do and make a statement like this. And for decades, this station was the place where you knew you'd arrived. But once the last train pulled out, it became a place where hope left. As parts of Detroit hollowed out, so did this station. It became a symbol of the city's hard times, a monument to its struggles. It's time for that to change. It's time to remake this station. It's time to remake this station into a place of possibility again. Today, the Michigan Central Station has a new owner, Ford Motor Company. And what I want people to know is this isn't just a symbolic gesture. We have big plans for this station and for Corktown. And I want to explain what those plans will mean in a minute for the future of Ford, future of Detroit, and the future of our industry. People tend to measure a city in different ways: by its population, by its footprint, by the size of its economy. But that's not what really matters. What really matters is the size of its heart, the strength of its people, the scope of their dreams, and that's how you measure a city. Detroit has always been defined by its people. We're resilient and tough. And at Ford, we've always been proud of that. This isn't just where we do business, it's our home. And together, Ford and Detroit did a lot to build this country. Our Highland Park plant was where my great-grandfather's assembly plant changed the economy forever. And it's also where he did something more than just make it possible for workers to build more cars. It's where he made it possible for workers to join the middle class. A living wage, a 40-hour work week, profit sharing, hiring workers with disabilities. These advances helped workers buy the cars they made, afford a home, send their kids to college, and then to retire. And at Willow Run, Ford employees built the planes and tanks that won the war, setting the stage for decades of American prosperity. And at the Rouge, which will celebrate its 100th anniversary soon, generations of workers, grandparents, parents, sons, daughters, have been through all the good times and the bad, but they've built the best cars and trucks in the world. And in many ways, we came together, Ford and Detroit. At times, we stumbled together too. But whenever anybody writes us off, we come together, get to work, and we write a new chapter. When the Lions returned downtown, I was told by a prominent businessman that our fans would never follow. But thanks to the best fans in the world, Ford Field has become an anchor of Detroit's comeback. When the Rouge fell into disrepair, some senior executives said that we should write it off and go build a new plant somewhere else. But we rolled up our sleeves and we built it better than ever. We turned the most imitated plant in the world into one of the most sustainable. And when the economic crisis hit, and 1 in 4 people around here were out of work, we made tough sacrifices. We mortgaged everything to keep Ford out of bankruptcy. And we came back even better with new plants, new shifts, new models, and a new commitment to our future. These weren't half measures. They were full swings. And excuse me, and when it looked at times like we might lose everything, we looked out for each other. We bet on each other. That's what we do. And today, I'm more hopeful about this city than I've been in a long time. Over the past decade in particular, we've all pulled together to make this city work. Buses started running again. Streets started lighting up again. Young people started moving downtown. And many of you, like the people behind me, started businesses in neighborhoods that hadn't known any for a long time. Which brings me back to what we're doing here today. This station is a symbol, but Ford's investment in Corktown is anything but symbolic. We're making a big bet on our future. What Highland Park, Willow Run, and the Rouge were to the American economy in the 20th century, we hope Corktown will be to the American economy in the 21st century. And I know that's a big claim, but this industry is going through some big changes. And I think we all recognize that there was a time when our industry didn't keep up and we weren't thinking about the future in a responsible, sustainable way. And just as Detroit has had to reimagine what it's going to be, we have to do the same. Because everything's changing. From how we build our cars, to what they run on, to the way we hail them, or even to drive them at all. You can look at that kind of change as unsettling, or you can see it as exciting. And that's when we're at our best, when we make change work for us, when we shape it. So the challenge is, how do we reinvent our business model for this new era? Well, at Ford, we design, build, and sell the best cars and trucks in the world. But is that all we should do? My great-grandfather believed that the Ford Motor Company had two missions: to make cars affordable so that everybody had the opportunity to own one, and to make people's lives better. Well, today there are more than 1 billion cars on the road around the world. So you could say that we've been actually meeting that first mission. But are we still meeting the second? Are we actually making people's lives better? I've always believed that mobility makes freedom and progress possible. It allows us to live and work wherever we want. Think about it. Before the Model T, most people never traveled more than 25 miles from where they were born. But today, mobility is getting harder to come by, and it's simple math. About 7.5 billion people live on the planet today. 30 years from now, we'll have almost 10 billion. Most of those people will live in cities. And our current transportation systems are already straining enough as it is. The average American already wastes a few days each year stuck in gridlock. And that's nothing compared to some of the countries that are growing the fastest. So now imagine doubling or even quadrupling the number of cars on the road over the next 30 years. And while the environment has always been a passion of mine, and making cars with fewer emissions is a challenge that we've been working on for some time, the reality is this: 4 billion clean cars on the road are still 4 billion cars. And a clean traffic jam is still a traffic jam. My great-grandfather once said, if I'd asked my customers what they'd wanted, they would have said a faster horse. And for a long time, the answer to this problem has been more lanes or more roads. But that's not really going to solve the problem. 100 years after Henry Ford's assembly line revolutionized the industry, we're reimagining mobility. We believe we can be a leader in rethinking cities so that even as millions more people start to call cities home, we can make the air cleaner and the streets less congested. And that means smart cars, but also smart roads, smart parking, smart public transit, and ways for all of them to talk to one another. Imagine new ways of making it easier for people who don't own cars to get to their jobs, and easier for the poor and the elderly to get the food and health care that they need to live better, longer, and more independent lives. The possibilities are endless. And in a few minutes, Jim Hackett will outline what we're working on in greater detail. But why Ford? What could a company that's been around 150 years offer in terms of entirely new ways of thinking? Well, this company was born of disruption. And we've all looked at innovation in a different way. And that's what we're doing again now. We've already moved 220 people from our self-driving and electric vehicle teams into the factory here in Corktown. And eventually, we'll bring all our mobility teams to this neighborhood. And they'll work to make people's lives better. And after all, that should be the point of technology, to make people's lives better. And in a time when technology can be unsettling for a lot of reasons, we want to be the world's most trusted company working on these solutions. Look, you've known us for 115 years. We're the people who build the vehicles that generations of Americans have let their kids drive. And we know that in this new era, we can't do this alone. Consider the early days of the auto industry. There were more than 1,800 car companies in America. It was a time of incredible ingenuity and entrepreneurship. And that's the kind of innovation that's happening in this area right now. It's an incredibly exciting time. But the truth is, we don't precisely know what the future will look like. Nobody does. And that's okay. It's actually really exciting. What we do know is that we're going to create that future here in Corktown and also at our newly designed Dearborn campus. And we want help from everybody. We want the best startups, the smartest talent, the kind of thinkers, engineers, and problem solvers who see things differently to come and partner with us here in Detroit. We've already been working and investing in new kinds of businesses. committed to making this vision a reality, from radar and mapping technologies to artificial intelligence platforms. And one of the greatest things about Detroit right now is its vibrant, fun startup culture. And we invite you and other entrepreneurs to help us build a future. And we want the community actively involved in making our Corktown campus the next great anchor for Detroit's comeback. We want this station a place that many people suggested should be torn down, to be a beacon of development, opportunity, and possibility all over again. A destination for people to come visit from all around the world. We plan to renovate the Grand Hall and make it majestic again. And we want local shops and local restaurants alongside the inventors and dreamers like Asia and all the young people here on this stage mapping out this future with us. We're planning a modern workspace in the tower above, and we plan to restore it all in an environmentally friendly way. And above all, we want this to be a public gathering spot for the people of Detroit to come, have fun, and enjoy it. We want your help to make this vision a reality, a signal to the world that Detroit is open for business for good. I'll just close by saying that Corktown matters to me and our family. Some of you might know that Henry Ford was the son of an immigrant. His father, William Ford, came over from Cork during Ireland's potato famine. And this part of town was coined Corktown for all the immigrants like him who came here with little more than hope. This was a place where if you worked at it, you could make something of yourself and hope that you could make something better for your kids. And that this was a place where you could imagine what's possible. That's what we all want to do all over again, right here in Corktown, to reimagine what's possible. So come back to the Michigan Central Station as often as you can. We're so excited to share our plans with you, and thank you all very much.
Please welcome the Detroit Youth Poet Laureate, Imani Michelle.
Good morning. My name is Imani Michelle, and it is my honor to serve as the Detroit Youth Poet Laureate for the city of Detroit. Yeah. I'm thrilled to be a part of this historic event today, and I'm excited to introduce the United States Poet Laureate, Tracy K. Smith. Here in the Motor City, the Michigan Central Depot, locally referred to as the train station, has served as Detroit's most iconic building, a once great symbol of transportation. This historical piece of architecture was the engine that made Detroit mobile and connected us to the rest of the country. With the bold legacy this train station leaves behind, comes new beginnings. Ford Motor Company has made the innovative decision to give this beautiful property a new purpose, one that will again serve the people of Detroit. Tracy K. Smith's voice is a fitting one to help us mark this incredible occasion. In the words of our esteemed guest, everything that ever was still is somewhere. And so please join me in welcoming to the stage the Poet Laureate of the United States, Tracy K. Smith.
It's my honor and pleasure to be here today. I'm thrilled to be celebrating the sense of community that I see here and beautifully behind me on this stage. And so I wanted to write a poem that speaks to that. And I think of community as the people that we live with, our families, our neighbors, the people we work with. But I also believe that it extends to include the people who were once here and who are now gone. Those whose spirit and whose vision is what helps us move forward. So this is a poem that is celebrating that. Poem for the light in Michigan Central Station. Think of my grandfather as a boy with his mother, never so far north before today, staring up at bars of sunlight in the heaven-high room. Every voice once lifted on church days could fit here and still allow for your grandfather's old world vowels, his ship's slow growl over wide white sea. Factories churning out 1,000 whirring parts, taillights like a current of sparks, siren whine, then something louder, the composite cry of smoke, lobbed brick, blast after blast, until the street, like a river, runs dry. And not just here, not just this city's young men led off in bands, these girls dragged home by mothers' hands, but my aunts setting out by train in '68, and your mother's mother stretched reading on a couch, all with us now in our lurch from promise to promise, strife to strife. What if history is a congregation guided by the wind, an accumulation of the lost, the risen, and the soon to rise, all blown like clouds past rooftops, county lines, past our own known lives, and into the shape we together make. You, me, and all of them drifting out as over the patient face of the lake. Thank you.
Please welcome the 48th Governor of the State of Michigan, Rick Snyder.
Well, good morning. Oh, come on, we can do better than that. Good morning. This is an awesome day for Detroit, for Michigan. This is another milestone in the history of our state, and I'm so proud to be with you today. Just yesterday, I was working in my office in Detroit. I do have an office here. It's on the top floor of Cadillac Place. And I took a moment or two to reflect. I went out and looked out the windows. And I could see the tremendous Midtown area. I could see the tremendous downtown area. And I looked off to the right. And there's a building that stands out all by itself that represents this city so well. Michigan Central. If you go back and look in history, it was built during the golden age of Detroit. It was a beacon, welcoming people to this great city and telling the rest of the world that this was the place to be. It was a tremendous success for decades. Years later, though, it came to represent something else. When the windows were out, when it was all run down, when it was closed up. It was what was wrong with us, what was not good in our area. So today is truly a special day. To see this milestone day with this iconic place coming back, to be reoccupied, to come alive again, to really be a beacon for the world again is something special. And I want to thank and congratulate the Ford Motor Company, Bill Ford, Jim Hackett, and all the Ford Motor team for this wonderful investment. There are two key points I would quickly share with you that tie this all together in many respects. First of all, we need to thank Ford. Ford has been doing this for over 115 years. This is not the first iconic thing they've done for us. The $5 wage. We should be proud the American middle class started right here in Detroit because of the Ford Motor Company. Bill mentioned the Rouge. The Rouge was a great example. Instead of being torn down, it became the prime example in the world of an environmental sustainability before most people didn't even knew what environmental sustainability was. And we need to be thankful for that. Now, even as important as what's going on in this place is the second point. It will be wonderful to see this thriving and vibrant with thousands of people working here, working in the neighborhoods, great Detroiters finding wonderful career opportunities. It's more than that. As they talked about the future of their mobility efforts being here, it is something that has the opportunity not to transform just Detroit, not to transform Michigan, but to transform the world. Mobility is going to change our society in every nation in this world. And it's important we exert world leadership. We have a choice to be led or to lead. Ford Motor is stepping up today as proud Michiganders to say we're going to lead right here in Detroit, in Michigan, by creating a corridor that goes from Corktown to Dearborn to the American Center for Mobility in Willow Run to M-City in Ann Arbor. And you're going to see advances and exciting things. So as you look at this place, don't say just how wonderful the building's coming back. Don't say how it's just great to see windows and elevators and cool things going on. Be proud and loud as Michiganders to say this place is helping transform our world, and not just for the sake of technology, but to make it a better place, to save lives, to create opportunities for people, and to make us more efficient in this world. So let's be proud, let's enjoy today, and look at this as the start of something that's going to continue to only be greater, to show off Detroit, show off Michigan, and to show the rest of the world this is where things are happening. Thank you so much.
Please welcome Wayne County Executive Warren Evans.
Good morning. Usually not short for words, but the only one I can think of right now is awesome. This is awesome for Detroit and for Wayne County. I can't think of a year where two of the biggest albatross or anvils around our necks are being fixed in the same year. The jail coming down, that's been the eyesore. If you come in this way, and coming in this way to look at this iconic building and see that it's going to be saved, it's going to be restored, and it's going to be the key to, I think, the evolution of Ford Motor Company's next generation. Started here in Detroit many, many years ago. Well, technology is changing, automation is changing, and Ford sees the change and is right in front of it, and I think that is a blessing for all of us. I know I wouldn't be standing here if my grandfather hadn't worked 30 years for Ford Motor Company, loved it every day, never missed a day because he saw the opportunity, and the opportunity was huge. I also think it's important to Corktown and the region in many respects. I mean, the Michigan Avenue corridor, in my mind, is the one corridor that needs help more than any of the others. It is, and Ford Motor Company has seen this, the ability to start to connect Detroit with our world-class airport, with the ability to get to the University of Michigan and Ann Arbor. I mean, great things will come as a result of this, and I don't think there's a corridor where it makes more sense than it does right here. So, you know, I'm ecstatic that we're doing this. Is certainly huge for Wayne County, and as the Wayne County executive, Bill Ford, Mr. Haggett, you know, Dearborn and Detroit, the connected, both of them in Wayne County, and have been, look, take it when you can get it, you know. Oakland County had it for a while, we're bringing it home. And I guess I would be remiss if I didn't say that, you know, a lot of things happen behind the scenes that are really critical and people don't get credit for. But I've got to say, this governor and this mayor have been team players on so many projects. And I think when you see a synergy in leadership that says, we want to make things better and we want to get things done, and you work at getting them done, I mean, that's the wow factor. That's the big plus that you don't see every day. But believe me, these things don't happen if you don't have it. So I'm blessed to be here. I'm blessed to be the Wayne County executive and see this occurring. I'm blessed to work with the mayor and with the governor, who have done so much for this state in terms of economic development. And, you know, Detroit's coming back. God bless you all. Thank you very much for listening.
Please welcome the 75th Mayor of Detroit, Mike Duggan.
Isn't this a great day for Detroit? I want to take you back to a day that wasn't so great. April 7th, 2009. You know what happened that day? The Detroit City Council voted to order the immediate demolition of this building. And in 2009, that was a very logical decision. We're in the middle of a severe recession. 20,000 people a year were moving out of the city. There was no hope to bring this building of the city back. That's what they thought in 2009. And if you looked at what happened after that vote, the attention of the national media, from the Wall Street Journal to the Los Angeles Times, came in here and wrote about the decline of the train station. TV stations, from the BBC to stations in Japan. You had international newspapers came here. El País out of Madrid, the Irish Examiner from Dublin, Le Monde from Paris, all came here and wrote about the train station, and the message in all of them was this: the train station is dead and Detroit is dead. Who would have imagined that within 10 years, this site would be the center of 5,000 new employees coming back to the city and being the center of Ford's strategic direction on mobility? Isn't it remarkable? So to Bill Ford and Jim Hackett and the whole Ford team, I just want to say thank you. It's remarkable what they've done. They've taken the excitement of their vision to make Ford the world leader in mobility, combined it with the energy of Detroit's comeback, and they've done something today that's historic. If you look at major metropolitan cities and areas around the country, they're all driven by vibrant central cities that attract the talent. That's what makes regions great. And what we're seeing now in Detroit is that Detroit is being that kind of economic generator. And I hope it's time we can let the city versus suburb stuff go and everybody recognize when Detroit recovers, it's good for everybody in southeastern Michigan. I would be remiss not to say a thank you to Matt Maroon, who a couple years ago I signed a contract with him that had him put the windows back in the train station and started some momentum, started people seeing possibilities. And late last year, Matt and I had some long and heartfelt conversations about the Ford proposal. But I think the single best phone call I've gotten in my time as mayor was on Christmas Eve, when the phone rang and it was Matt Maroon saying, "My family and I have talked it over, and we've decided we're going to do what's good for the city." He says, "I'm going to get this deal done and sell the train station to Ford." And thanks to Matt and his family, with the Ford family, this is happening today. I need to say thank you to some overlooked folks, my own team, who since that day of Christmas, Jed Halbert and Matt Walters from the city staff, Kenyatta Bridges and Sarah Pavelko from the DEGC, who've been working with David Dubinsky and Fordland for every day for the last 6 months. And I hope you all get one day off to enjoy this, because this is going to be special. And now, I've got the honor to do something very special. I get to introduce the next speaker, a young woman by the name of Alessandra Carrion, who is a systems analyst at Ford Motor Company. But in the evenings, she's an entrepreneur. She was one of the first Motor City Match winners in the city of Detroit and opened up Pizzaplex just down the street on Verner. So, going forward, she's going to be with her colleagues working in the train station during the day, and then she's going to go down and host them as her customers in her business. A great Ford employee and a great entrepreneur. Please welcome Alessandra Carrion.
Hi, my name is Ale Carrion, and I'm an environmental engineer at Ford Motor Company. I decided to join Ford 5 years ago because we share common goals: looking out for our planet, protecting human rights, and taking care of our communities. My team and I at Ford evaluate ways to mitigate the impacts that our vehicles have on the environment. I came to Detroit 6 years ago, and I fell in love with the people of this city. My first job here was as an AmeriCorps volunteer working on the East Side with Detroit Public Schools students on their sustainability projects. Even after joining Ford, I committed to stay involved with community. As Mayor Duggan said, I also run a small business, Pizzaplex, a few blocks away in Southwest. Our pledge is not only to make great pizzas, but to offer welcoming spaces, and we encourage our customers to buy Forward a pizza or a coffee for anyone who wants to redeem it. By the way, it's at West Verner and Clark, to be precise, in case you're hungry later. But more importantly, to see Ford listen to and work closely with community to continue the story of Michigan Central Station demonstrates a totally new kind of commitment. And so it is my honor, as a proud member of the Ford Motor Company family, to introduce our CEO, Jim Hackett.
Moves to Detroit from Seattle. I asked her why. She was inspired to be here to be part of the Renaissance. How cool is that? Now, I'm worried about my hair, not my eyes, but I'll take. The wind was blowing there, Bill, but it's holding now. I get to join Ali and 200,000 plus Ford employees, people that I love, in our family. I'm honored to serve with them, and I think we're in a neighborhood where we're going to be honored to be with the folks from Corktown. But in that group of employees, as I said, I love them all, there's one I particularly admire. This is a man who's had the vision 3 times, in my awareness, to step out on the edge before everyone agreed. He restored the Rouge plant when the world didn't understand that industrial systems could be so sustainable. He spoke at the TED conference in 2011, and he said, if I cut and paste the system my grandfather created, it will kill the world. We have to design a new one. And then he's now had the vision to make this investment to allow me and our colleagues at Ford to prove mobility, to prove how it works. Bill Ford, thank you for what you do. You know, I get up also and look out a window back here in Dearborn, and I see that Rouge complex. It's an amazing sight. And if I look a little further, I can see the Detroit skyline, including the Renaissance Center that Henry Ford II built. And then, of course, believe it or not, you can see this beautiful station. And when you see all that together from my window, you start to see the Ford Motor Company and its future. It's connected in a way that is going to bridge the future of work and the future of mobility. From my window in Dearborn, you can see why the Rouge was an icon of the Industrial Revolution. In fact, I want to build on something that Bill said earlier this morning about it. Henry Ford designed it, the young folks might not know this, to integrate everything you needed to build the vehicle. It turned out coal, iron ore, limestone, sand into iron, steel. It made tires and glass. It even generated its own electricity. Henry's workers then built cars, but they also built tractors, tank parts, aircraft engines. They were made there. And many of their kids and grandkids followed them on the line, making what Ford is today. Well, if you're me, you've got to see that past, understand where you're going in the future. Because we're living through a new revolution today. A revolution in the artificial intelligence and big data that's going to be even more disruptive than that industrial age was. A whole host of new technologies are redefining what's possible now with mobility. There's a thing called neural networks. It makes these cars so smart that they don't need a driver. New strides in electrical vehicles are started here in Corktown. And the promise of something that Marcy Cleavorn and our team at Ford is building, a transportation mobility cloud. This is going to allow all these things to connect. It's going to help us untangle congestion. It's going to make it easier to get to those Lions games, alleviate pollution. And most importantly, in our soul, we get to give the crowded streets back to the people who live and work here. What Rouge was to Ford in the industrial age, Corktown will be for Ford in the information age. In fact, think of this as a new kind of Rouge, a parallel pathway to build out our business alongside the future of Dearborn. Right here, we have the talent to prepare us for the information age, combined with our century-plus expertise of vehicle development and manufacturing just located 7 miles west of here. And that gives us the powerful combination we need to build the system and services of tomorrow. Our plans for Corktown won't compete or won't replace our campus in Dearborn. Make sure you all hear that. It's actually one whole system. In fact, if anything, it guarantees the future of Dearborn. Our Dearborn redesign and our Corktown revitalization are just steps in the strategy to keep moving forward, to help me see Bill realize this dream, and in the process, to keep us so competitive in every part of our business. Of course, this is great real estate. It's a great investment, but that's not the reason we did it. It helps us fast track our transformation. The station has good bones. It's in the kind of neighborhood that we know attracts and retains highly skilled and innovative dreamers, makers, creators, entrepreneurs, and the young people behind me up here today. Those are the people we want working in this building. This will be a place the community will enjoy. We're committed to that. This isn't Ford coming and taking over. We live with you, and we want to bring every young person, even the aspiring Asia and Ale, into what we do here. This will be the kind of campus where the emerging economy thrives, an ecosystem of companies. We're going to have partners here. Colleges are going to want to connect. Of course, that's going to drive more investment and more innovation. In fact, think of this as a knowledge cathedral. It's a place where new ideas are birthed. You know, I've always believed in the importance of a concept called design thinking. It's about open collaboration. And what you see with a property like this, you can create random, serendipitous interactions. The colleagues then are inspired when the inspiration strikes. That's what this campus is going to cultivate. Corktown to Dearborn, to Ann Arbor, to Detroit is the linchpin of this Southeast Michigan mobility corridor. I said this morning that Palo Alto, that area, Silicon Valley, is about moving bits. We're about moving people. And it's the latest node in a research network for Ford that runs from California to Germany to China. This can be our Sand Hill Road, this mobility corridor. These streets are going to be the proving ground where you'll find real world challenges you can't fake in a lab. And we're already testing our autonomous vehicles in cities like Pittsburgh and Miami. And soon, we will build them here at Flat Rock. Ken Williams, a Ford autonomous vehicle engineer, is on the stage with us today. Ken, put your hand up. He's one of many of the folks that are leading the development of those systems for reliable and safe self-driving vehicles. That's a Ford commitment. We're going to make these safe. We're also on track to become a world leader in electrified vehicles in the next few years. We're calling those, help me with this, new propulsion systems, because you're going to have options beyond just an electric vehicle. You'll have hybrid and gasoline that are ever more fuel efficient. They're going to be brought to market by team members like Pat Weber. He's a battery electric vehicle specialist who's now headquartered over here in Corktown. Well, imagine with these new technologies, along with other advancements that will be developed here in Corktown, this is going to give rise to this new transportation, I'll say it slowly, operating system. A transportation operating system. It means all these things in there are connected. It transforms cities with smarter vehicles tied to that smart world that both Bill, the governor, and the mayor talked about. And it's going to benefit people, which is what we just heard Henry Ford pledged. As you can see, the future of Ford Motor Company is here. And we're really proud today to tell you that Detroit and Dearborn give us the best home field advantage in the world. Our investments will make Detroit this mobility capital of the world once again. And I know that someday, Bill's grandchildren, great-grandchildren, he's got one sitting in the, kind of waiting in the aisle here, will look out their window, Alexandra, in Dearborn one day, and they'll see what I saw, that the Rouge meant something to the evolution of the company, and they'll see what Corktown did to further that. And they'll be as proud as I am of what generations of Ford employees did here as they take us somewhere bold and new. So thank you so much for showing up here today. You've made us very proud. Now, we have something special to share. This is such an iconic building that Detroit has such an inspiring story to tell. The History Channel is producing a special documentary film titled Detroit, Comeback City. Take a look.
The Detroit thing is all about surviving. We're from Detroit, and we're strong from Detroit.
Detroit was Silicon Valley in the early part of the 20th century.
In many ways, the American dream really was created in this locale.
Many people saw Detroit for the first time stepping off a train. And the first thing you see is this incredible building.
Michigan Central Station was Detroit's pride and joy. What a grand, grand building it was.
A colossal structure. People could look up in the air.
It was almost like going into a cathedral.
What happened with this train station is just a story that happened over and over again all over the city.
Detroit went down through the floor.
This is a big empty building in the middle of one of the baddest cities in the country.
The train station is emblematic of Detroit's rise and fall, but my hope is it becomes emblematic again for Detroit's rebirth.
Michigan Central Station has been acquired by Ford, is going to add to the great story about Detroit's renaissance.
Detroit is returning with the future of the auto industry, and we're planning to launch our autonomous vehicles.
It was once absolutely spectacular, and our goal is to make it spectacular once again.
There are things happening in the city that are just literally incredible.
Detroit is a place of possibilities. You know, that ingenuity and that spirit lives on.
Detroit is my roots, and it's a great city, and it can be great again.
Coming July 1st, only on History.
Look, all I wanna do is make the city proud, yeah. Wishing all the old trees could see me now.
Detroit, if you love Detroit, make some noise right now. Hey, hey.
You gon' realize that this is bigger than me, yeah. Hey, hey, it's bigger than me. Look, we got the whole town on their feet and they all just waiting on you to speak.
That's when you realize that this is bigger. Get it, get it, get it. I pray that you get it even if I can't get it with you. I pray to God you never let the little things in life distract you from the bigger picture. Everybody in the city to me like a distant cousin, brother, little sister. I see myself in the young ones. When I look in their eyes, I feel like a mirror. Carleone all on my own. Cartier all on my arm. All I hear is sirens and car alarms. People going to war with no armor on. First time I seen a dead body, I was 14 and I felt the pressure. Like if I don't get it, I might end up next to him. I'ma take the dice and I'ma roll a 7. 7, 7, 7, 7, 11 is 9/11 getting called around. The hood America's lost and found, where people get lost and never found. All I ever wanted was to turn these G's into M's in the 4 key. Got it and I still felt incomplete. That's when I realized that this was bigger than me, yeah. It's bigger than me, and you and us. Cause we got the whole town on their feet and they all just waiting on you to speak. That's when you realize that this is bigger than me. All I wanna do is make the city proud, yeah. Wishing all the OGs could see me now, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I see people in the same place 10 years later, man, that's too pathetic. God talking to me telepathic, like it only happens if you let it. I can't spend my whole life looking at the same ceiling fan when I feel like I ain't got no ceilings, man. If I ain't special, why I feel it then? Look, I gotta get on the road, I gotta be the one chose. I gotta come back and tell the greatest story they never told. This must be the feeling that you get when you know you close and you know what's away, and even when the doors are closed, and realize that this is bigger than me, yeah. It's bigger than me. Cause Detroit, we got the whole town on their feet and they all just waiting on you to speak. That's when you realize that this is bigger than me. All I wanna do is make the city proud, yeah. Wishing all the OGs can see me now, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. Oh, yeah, 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 yeah. First of all, make some noise for the Detroit Children's Choir. Now, Detroit, this is a historic day in a historic place at a historic time in history. Now, I'm a fellow Detroit native myself from the west side of Detroit. You know, and for as long as I can remember, this train station has been abandoned. All right, I was born in 1988, and I'm just excited because this marks the first time where the whole renaissance of Detroit that we've seen happening downtown, it starts to flourish into the neighborhoods. This is directly affecting our community. Corktown is the oldest neighborhood in Detroit, and I love the fact that we are continuing the progression, we're continuing the expansion, and it's forward-thinking jobs, man. I'm so happy to be involved, and that it's tech jobs here at Ford. A crazy fact that I just realized is that, or somebody told me backstage, is that in 2018, we have more technology in our phones than NASA did when they sent a man to the moon. So if that's not something to be excited about, if that's not something to get excited about for the future, for people who need jobs, for people who are looking for a career field, I don't know what is, man. This is 2018, this is the new Ford, this is a new generation, and if you're happy to be a part of it, let me hear you make some noise right now. All right, so look, I wanna do something else. My grandma used to always tell me, she said, I hope you learn to make it on your own. And if you love yourself, just know you'll never be alone. I hope that you get everything you want and that you chose. I hope that it's the realest thing that you ever know. Hope you get the pretty girls that's pretty at everything. $1 million cribs, having $1 million dreams. And when you get it all, just remember one thing, that one man could change the world. That one man could change the world. One man, one boy, one girl. You see, I originally wrote that song about my grandma because that's what she taught me. You know, she was one of the first female black captains in World War II. one of the first female police officers here in Detroit on the streets. She was a teacher, a counselor, and she was a human being that changed the world. But when I think of somebody who changed the world, a man who changed the world, I think of Henry Ford too. For somebody to be in that era that he came up in, and to think of not just the Model T, but to think of an assembly line, I mean, that really changed the whole game. And what I was talking about earlier about how we have more, you know, advantages and more technology on our phones than we did when they sent a man to space, I can't help but to think we all are Henry Ford. You know what I mean? We all can do that. There's no restrictions. There's nothing stopping us. So now's the time. No more excuses, all right? And I also want to bring somebody up right now who's responsible for this whole thing. I want to bring up Bill Ford himself. Again, where you at, Bill? There you are. Detroit, we always bounce back. Make some noise for him one more time. Thanks for having me.
Big Sean, that was fantastic. I wish you'd stick around all weekend because we got big plans. Everybody is invited this weekend to an open house. This is the first time that this has been open to the public in over 30 years. And Big Sean, thanks for everything. You're a good man. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. Detroit, I love you so much. All right? Thank you, Ford. Thank you, everybody involved. Hey, I'm doing a big charity event this weekend where I'm giving back to the whole community. It's called Don Weekend, and it stands for Detroit's On Now. So if you want to come be a part of the community, we're going to be all over the city doing so many events, and Ford is a part of that as well. So thank you guys for the support. I hope I see you at Don Weekend having a good time to kick off summer. And if you got love for Detroit like I got love for Detroit, make some noise one more time. Thank you to the Detroit.
Even though I live my life on the road, doesn't mean I don't have time for you. Plenty I've tried, almost can't.